Everyone, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you for everyone for attending tonight's meeting here at May 7th of the 2024 APA board meeting. We'll call it at 6:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sorry that I was a few minutes late. I was stuck on I-69. There was a bad accident, so it's just taking my time to get up here to it. So thankfully I'm here and just a few minutes behind, but we'll go ahead and get started like we said. First thing on the agenda here, we'll do a Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Yeah.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Right. First thing on the agenda is approval of the agenda for this evening as presented.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda with adding one item under new business for a field trip proposal.
Okay. Got a motion? You got a second? Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next, anyone for public comment signed up?
Miss Stephanie Stennis has signed up.
We have someone. All right. Well, good evening. All right, we'll go ahead and turn over the floor for public comments here. We ask for your time here for about 3 minutes. But again, welcome to the APA board meeting tonight, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, APA board members. My name is Stephanie Stennis, and I have 3 children enrolled at APA. 2 of them at the elementary school in 1st and 5th grades, and 1 at the pre-academy in 7th grade. In the 2.5 years that we have been a part of the APA family, my children have thrived not only educationally, but emotionally and physically as well. We have loved each and every teacher and staff member that we have encountered. Although we have had some issues, I have been very pleased with the outreach from the administration and willingness to solve issues together as a team. As I stand here before you today, I want all of you to know that I have spent hours upon hours trying to come up with an eloquent letter to read to the board. I've had so many emotions trying to come up with the right words that will truly speak to all of you and pull at your heartstrings. I'm sure most of you are parents as well and want the very best for not only your own children, but all the children that attend these schools. Before today, I had 2 issues that I wanted to address with the board. The allegations against Mr. Ferris, a 7th and 8th grade science teacher, which has now been investigated and resolved as communicated by Director Miller in a letter sent to parents on Monday, and the situation involving Mrs. Lester, a 1st grade teacher that was fired for throwing an autistic child up against the hallway at the elementary school. These 2 issues were the focus of my conversation until I received a message yesterday evening about an ongoing situation and investigation at the elementary school. I was advised that molestation had been occurring in the bathroom by elementary students. The school has yet to notify parents of children attending the elementary, and I'm asking myself why. Are they trying to hide something? Last night, my 7-year-old son told me that the boys' bathroom was boarded up. Today, I asked my son's 1st grade teacher about the bathroom stalls being boarded up in the boys' restroom, where you can no longer see under the stalls. Her response: we are being proactive with some horseplay in the restrooms, such as hanging on the doors, vandalism, crawling under and above the doors to lock them from the inside, etc. Those are the only details I know or have been told. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to our administrators. Thank you. That is the message that I received from their teacher. To be quite frank, this is a ridiculous statement that the administrators came up with to save face. The school is not being proactive. They are being reactive to the ongoing situation since the sexual assault occurred in the bathroom, and now putting a safety plan in place per recommendations by the DCS. My question, why haven't parents been told that the school is now required to put a safety plan in place? Additionally, why have we not seen this safety plan? I have also been told that the elementary simply does not have enough male teachers in order to adequately staff a bathroom attendant while the students are using the restroom. If you cannot adequately staff the elementary school to protect our children, you need to contact the DOE and let them know that you are incapable of fulfilling your duties as administrators. There is absolutely zero excuses when it comes to the safety and security of our children. In closing, I know that many of you are parents. I would like you all to think about how you would handle this situation if this occurred to your child, and how you would like to be contacted about the situation from the administration rather than hearing this through the grapevine. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stephanie. We appreciate that. We do appreciate you speaking this evening, and we will move forward with the school and the administrators to see what's happening going forward.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Tiff, did you or Misha want to speak, or are you just here?
Just here. Is that everyone? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone, as well there too. All right. Next thing on the agenda here is approval of the minutes that was as presented from the April 2nd, 2024 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last board meeting.
I'll second.
A motion and second. All right, thank you so much. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next thing is approval of the CEO report from this evening, actually May 7th here as presented from Jill.
Make a motion to approve the CEO report May 7th as presented.
All right. We have a motion.
I'll second.
You have a second. Any further discussion?
With the breezeway, what's the time frame on getting that fixed? I know it says it began with redoing everything on the 1st. Do we have like an end date or just the 2 weeks?
We have a to be determined. So we have already put in all of the supports and the foam. So the 40-foot deep steel is in there. They went and they did the spray foam about a week and a half ago. Because of the way the settling happened on the ramp coming up into the academy, and we had all that slitting, which is pretty close to where it's supposed to be, we're going to have to cut out that piece and then put concrete in there just to ensure that part. So as far as all the foundation work goes, it's done. It's just getting the surface a little cleaner, and then we are going to go ahead, we'll retile the entire breezeway. We are going to go ahead and get the more flexible tire than what we have, so that it's not breaking as it settles back into the correct location. But it's stable and lifted.
Are the students still utilizing that walkway?
No.
Okay.
No, they currently, I get to see all of them on their way back upstairs, especially after lunch. But
Okay.
yeah, they are not on it. They were allowed to be on it before the foam went in there, and then since that did shift the things, just safe for everybody.
Yeah, that's why I was noticing when I came in that way that it was still.
Yeah. Yeah, and that gate is typically across it, and for fire safety purposes, it's movable. But
Yeah.
We're just avoiding that.
Thank you.
I found the discussion on the health insurance interesting. What is ICHRA and ACA? Help me with those acronyms. I probably should know them, but
Well, ICRA is a new one.
Yeah.
And
ACA I think is Obamacare.
yes,
by
it's the
another
Affordable
name.
Care Act.
Yeah.
And with ICRA, essentially, the way that it would be designed kind of in a private setting or within a very small employer is that it is a healthcare premium reimbursement allocation. But the way that ours is going to function is basically like group healthcare. It's just every employee gets to pick which plan fits for them. The three main providers that we are currently seeing that people are eligible is Anthem, Better with Meridian Health Services, and then CareSource.
Okay.
And so they get to pick their deductible, they get to pick, what co-pays they're willing to pay.
How many plans, did they have an ample number of plans to choose from?
For a 41-year-old female, I can tell you there were 39 plans.
Oh, okay.
For
Okay. So that's good.
4602. Yeah.
Because quite often we've heard that before, and you find out, well, there were 2 or 3, take it or
Right.
leave it. Yeah.
Yeah, and we had been introduced to that cafeteria plan idea probably about 8 years ago, where we thought, ooh, we're going to be able to give them some choice. This will be great. And then it was, well, you have to have over 50% enrollment. Well, how can you have 50% enrollment in multiple plans? So, but this is because of the way the marketplace has happened, the federal government, this actually went fully into effect 2 years ago. And so since we were going to have 103.85% increase,
Yes, wow.
that was a tough day. It makes the most sense. Like I said in my report, it does change kind of the investment strategy because it is all now age-based. And so the premiums for a 25-year-old are much less expensive than they are for a 41-year-old. I happen to be in one of the age brackets.
My age bracket may still be 103,000.
It may be 103,000 for your age, yes.
Yes.
It does actually require, if they are Medicare available, so basically age 65 are eligible, not available, that then they will move into Medicare purposes. Some of the benefits of a plan like this is that when they get to move, if they change, positions or careers, instead of having COBRA, this just follows them and then they just make their own payments to their plans. So they don't have to do a lot of front loading or worry about, within 18 months they would have to switch to a different plan. So.
Right. And it sounds like we may actually be saving some money.
It is possible. We have seen from our standpoint, there is a potential for lower premiums based off of the feasibility analysis, but we are seeing some of our employees that now they have no premiums that they have to pay. So if they are relatively healthy, especially our younger employees that don't really have prescriptions or can be on a high deductible plan right now, their premiums for the month is actually 0. So depends on what you're willing to give up for that, right? So
right.
That's probably an $8,000.
So if you're in a favorable age group and a good track record within that group, that could be very good.
And we have, once people have made their elections, because of the way this works, we still do have 60 days to change their plan. If they are looking at like, wait a minute, I didn't understand what's going on, there is kind of that 60-day period for us to adjust. And then starting January 1st, before then, November, it'll be a new renewal period anyways. So if they don't like the plan they got and it comes December, they can change and start a new one.
And as you pointed out, if the renewal period is at the end of the calendar year, we will not be having as much guessing with budget, since that'll be something that carries through for the next 12 months. So
and there are a couple of downfalls. So there is not a deductible rollover. So if we have people who've already met their deductible, right now as it stands, they won't get their credit for that. Which that can, for some of our employees, that's a pretty big deal. So our broker is looking for solutions on that, because we do have some that had already met their deductible where they're type 1 diabetic and have expensive insulin and things like that. And of course, we don't really want anybody to be in a horrible position financially because, healthcare insurance is a lucrative business.
yes.
So we are trying to find every support we have for them. The brokers are coming. The broker's been here last 2 days. He'll be here the remainder of the week, meeting one-on-one with every person.
Now
that
we have
wants
just
to.
one broker.
So we have one broker. His name is Josh, and then he has his team. So Brittany and Garrett. So
Okay.
Garrett's who's really doing a lot of that part. Josh is the guy that goes to bat and negotiates pretty heavily, and then answers all of my unique questions. So he's trying to be the problem solver for us, and we just didn't really have a great plan here. Nothing we could do anything about. It's not if somebody had just lived a healthier lifestyle, so it's not anything like that. So our new HR director is wanting to work harder on a wellness component for us. But like I said, this
we have
plan
that
year,
excellent weight room, so yeah.
that is true. We do have some of our staff members that live there quite a bit. Got one who works out about 2.5 hours every night.
Really? Oh.
So if the open enrollment is on May 15th, when will it go into effect? Will it go into effect for the fall for the?
It goes in effect June 1st.
Okay.
So open enrollments, it ends on the 15th technically, but if we have some stragglers or people that needed to go do some more research, we've got some wiggle room.
Okay. And then they'll renew again come January 1st then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Apparently that renewal cycle with the third-party administrator, the company's name is Babby. Apparently that renewal period starts 120 days, which happens to be right at the end of the first month of school, and I'm really excited about that. Renewal process. So, but the feasibility study does show, and I've got some copies, I can show you this later, where looking at our current trajectory on the premiums that we have had, we were going to continue to see at least 15 to 25, if not 30% increases over the next 3 years each year, and this one is kind of around that 5 to 7%, which, depending on how the legislators decide to fund us this next biennium budget season, putting that out there, that might be things that we can help. So, just saying, if any legislators are listening, schools need more money.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Let's
Any
see.
other further discussion?
One other question that might fit here better than in the coming section. I'm a little confused, and I know you've explained this many times, on our secured safety grant. I know that the way we had our budget set up, it looked like we were anticipating getting certain, money each month, which we have not got anything yet. But then I got to thinking about it. Is my understanding of it, which may be incorrect, is that we either committed with the state to spend $100,000 or up to, and our choice, and then when that was met, it's not reimbursable, it is a matching grant. So in other words, if we spend 100, and I think on the bookkeeping plus numbers, it looked like we were maybe on to 27,000 or something to date. They'll match it with 100,000, and then that would be spent on yet more new stuff.
Not entirely accurate.
Okay, I figured it wasn't, so.
Yeah. It is a reimbursable grant. If pretty much dollar for dollar, we have to match it. So if we spend $100,000 on equipment, we have to put our own $100,000 into it. And it is reimbursed on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
And so right now, the programming report is due in about 8 days on the 15th. And that is when we will submit for our first reimbursement. And that will pay for our Raptor software and equipment that we've purchased so far. So that's our visitor management. It's going to be our new volunteer management software as well. And then it's our emergency response software. So pretty much every school in Madison County has that Raptor program. And so APD is familiar with that and will be able to access safety plans, reunification plans. It will tie into our student information system and be able to provide them real-time access to, if we put in there, Dave Ashby wants to go to community hospital. If there's an emergency, they can know Dave Ashby, take him there, right?
They've already turned me and said, don't send that guy back here again.
Well,
But anyhow,
maybe not frequent flyers, but yes. So We have until September because this is one of those
Yeah, I was thinking
grants.
8/31 was the deadline to spend, yeah.
Yeah, and this will be the one that we'll be using to do the ballistic resistant film on classrooms that are on that first floor, as well as entryways. So a lot of the projects that we have for this have to be warm weather projects. So you'll see some spending this summer, and by Q3 we'll probably get it all reimbursed. So there will probably be reimbursements from
So
this year
really,
and
they're
next
calling
year.
it a matching, but it really is reimbursing us.
Yeah, they reimburse the 100,000, and then for us, our matching part is part of what we pay for like our Halo system and some of our other monitoring. There's a camera upgrade that we're doing as well, and so some of the Sonatrol expenses we're paying, and then some of the Sonatrol expenses this Department of Homeland Security will be paying.
Okay.
But yes, they definitely reimburse us. Never, not one of the cash running ones.
Yeah, a few of those.
Very
One,
very few.
actually, the innovation grant.
I'll say 2 right now, but that was
Two?
one time.
What's
Yeah.
the other one?
The other charter capital grant, the one-time deal.
Yep.
So the 520.
One, let me take one more on because I don't want to use these are detail-oriented questions. The advanced grant, advanced placement grant, and the NEES.
The NESP.
Yes, that one. Apparently, I was reading somewhere that they are somehow tied into our state tuition. And I was curious because we have lines, individual grant lines, and I wonder how that could be. And I don't want to get too much in detail. That's why I thought this fit in the CEO report,
Yeah.
maybe.
So previously, NESP used to be a separate grant. It is to be used for the English language learners. Previously, we've gotten about $22,000 to $23,000. Just a rough estimate, we spend about $175,000 a year on that program. So a little underfunded, but the state promises they're getting there. And they have changed that. It used to be a grant process, and now they've, even though it's still an entitlement, they've made it just full entitlement process. So they are including it with our monthly ADM payments.
Oh, okay.
But at least for NESP, we do have a separate line item for there that breaks it out. Now, looking at the honors grants and how they're doing some of the CTE as well as the state SPED, they're really tossing it all into the same pot and telling you keep track of it on your Form 54, that worksheet. But the NESP this year, I believe we got 29,000, somewhere in that ballpark to 32, and then that's pretty comparable to what we'll get next year.
Okay.
And they've broken that down. We have currently 77 students that qualify as ELL, so the English language learners. And based off of their WIDA scores, they determine how much money you get for them. So similar to special education, the higher the need, the higher the funding. And so, looking at our WIDA, I believe the figure I saw, I've not seen the full picture of it. We had 76% of our students actually advance within WIDA and go up, which is always great because that means we're getting closer to language acquisition and proficiency. So we shall see.
Yeah.
But
Well, we learned all about that ELL program in our, let's see, it was on 2/27. I forget which month that was for, but.
That's correct.
Yeah, so, yeah, okay. We learned a lot about that.
I say, and that was right in that WIDA testing window, which is never great. It's a rough time. It's a test, especially if we're looking at our third graders. It is criminal how much they test them. Because if you're a third grader and you're an English language learner, you have to take iRead for the first time. You have to take WIDA twice. You have to take iLearn for the first time as well, on top of all of our internal testing and formative assessments and things that we can do to actually use data to help kids. So those poor kiddos.
Since their entire year is nothing but testing.
It is, and honestly, from January to the end of almost April, it's testing season, especially for the third grade, and like I said, if they're ELL, and it's atrocious. So we have opted in for next, or last 2 years, we've opted in to test our second graders on iRead, because if they pass the second graders, they don't have to take it in third grade. So using that science and reading initiative, trying to help, reduce at least that burden for them in third grade. And then we have opted in I think 2 grade levels next year. The state has proposed breaking iLearn into 4 separate tests and doing one basically every quarter, where the first 3 are based on certain standards that you would have taught during that time period, and then the 4th one is the big overarching one. I still think it's a lot of testing, but these tests are only supposed to be like 45 minutes. So we said, hey, we're gonna opt in and see what they're doing there. We shall see how that goes, but maybe it will reduce.
Can all rejoice we're out of third grade.
Yes, be thankful that we have all passed.
Some further than others, I guess. Yeah, Mrs. Pruitt she gave an excellent presentation. So.
All right, any other further discussion?
Yeah, I just have one more thing. With Meridian Health being here now, I believe, and you'll know this more than myself, but there's some sort of, because the employees can go there as well, correct?
Yes.
And is it at a discounted rate as well, or no? It just goes through the insurance,
It goes through the insurance, and then there's also, they have their sliding fee and all the things that they do as a federally qualified health support.
Okay.
So we don't get any special discounts on it, but time is money for a lot of us, and so the accessibility has been fantastic.
That's good.
But
I just didn't know if that would work in with the insurance as well, as all of that increases, if there was more help available through Meridian with them being on site.
yeah, and that's one of the plans is the Better that is linked with Meridian Health, so I'm sure that there's probably preferential discounts for that pricing. We just have about three weeks to learn ICRA and
I get that.
how to navigate it. Those of you in healthcare, I do not envy you whatsoever.
We don't envy ourselves, so it's okay.
Noble profession.
All right, any more further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you for that. Next thing on the agenda here is a financial report, and it's the board treasurer report.
Okay.
Mr. Ashby, turn the floor over to you.
All right, I
Thank you.
believe, I apologize for missing the last board meeting. I think I can still count on one hand the number that I have missed over the many years, but it does happen, so, but I'm back. Let's see, I believe everybody has a copy of, I call this my script. I used to try to memorize all of this, but after a number of years, it runs together. Plus, this is my second board meeting and second treasurer report today. So if I get numbers jump, I'll try not to do that anyhow. So you can just follow along with me here. This is basically the summary sheet on the pre-meeting review that I send out with email. And I then have some additional notes here of things that I want to mention below. So if you've seen this before, I know Angie said, well, I just ran that off for everybody, which is true, but I've got the text down there is just a few comments that I thought were worthy of note. So we'll start with the top portion of it here. Let's see. The first column is our latest projected year ending, and as you can see, I forgot to change the 229 to 331. So I guess everybody's allowed one typo, maybe hopefully that's it. But that is our latest based on 331 numbers. And then I compare that with what we saw at the last board meeting. And thankfully, before some virus hit me Easter Sunday evening, I did get those pre-meeting reports out. So thankfully that I did, my body held off until I got that done and out to you all. And then also we make a comparison with our official budget and of course compare, the changes from one to the other. Now, you will notice that that's in smaller print. And the reason that I did that is because, as I think we have learned now over the last couple months, you'll notice it says that we did have some transfer entries which affected both our income and expense. And on a cash basis especially, if something occurs or there's a correction or a transfer between banks, you do have to account for it. The problem is that what we're most interested in is, let's say, comparing actual to budget, and we're looking for what's our real performance, better or worse. And so we need to sometimes sort of explain what some of these accounting, and they're necessary, our adjustments are, so that we don't draw wrong conclusions and give somebody a big bonus for doing a great job when actually it was, let me continue here. So that is that familiar 253,884 number, which part of that was just a main bank to local bank transfer. Part of it was I think August to September payroll. We did have a February to March payroll. It hit the bank a day sooner than it should have, but that didn't pick up on our year-end totals. So in bigger, oh sure, yeah, you guys jump right in.
You weren't here last month.
True.
And because of that always being an issue, and I thought, okay, let's a way I can fix that. I mean, that's the true accounting way that charters want us to do it, in the income and the expense. But in March or in February, we received the payroll in, and I just moved it on the expense side.
I noticed that,
not
yes.
affecting your income, but I didn't go back and change the other because it had already been approved.
Okay.
So I didn't change the report, but that's what I'm going to do moving forward, so you don't have to make those statements. Other than the payroll came in a day early, but it's not going to affect. So the only transfer is the bank to bank for the 50,000.
Right. From our standpoint, keeping it both below expense netted it out and didn't pick up in our end of the year totals, but. I guess we'll have to do whatever the authorities
well, I mean,
that
I have to do
want
it
us.
on the accounting,
Yeah.
when we account for deep, for the State Board of Accounts and everything. But I thought for this purposes, for the budget, I mean, when you're going through looking at the cash flow each month, I'm just going to put it on the expense line like I did in February, so that it doesn't create confusion.
Okay,
And it really doesn't
that sounds
distort
good.
your income being higher than it really is, and your expense is going to even out because it's in and out in the next month.
Okay.
So I just made that change, so hopefully that'll make things a little bit easier. So I apologize for interrupting, but I just wanted.
Oh no! Anybody jump right in here. This is again. This is why I put this out ahead of time so that we can have an effective discussion and cover what things that we need to and get questions answered. So anything that simplifies that would be very, as long as we don't get. Any jail time for it, let's say, with anybody, would be helpful. But it has been a learning experience too for us, because as a board we do need to educate ourselves on how to properly interpret some of these numbers too. So anyhow, what I did was I took total income, total expense, and cash net income or loss without the transfers. And as you can see, our latest projected bottom line here on a cash basis, again, $186,127. And last board meeting it was $472,865. So that sounds pretty good. And of course, that's that's a lot better than the $11,435 that we had originally budgeted. Now, since we are talking about these, let's say, budget distorting budget transactions here in the darker gray, I'm explaining how did we go from a negative 472 to 186. Well, one category is grants not budgeted that were received this year, in this case a little later in the year, and most or all of the money will be spent next year. For example, we were very pleased to get the Charter School Facilities Grant is the amount of $519,954. We're all in agreement on that is what we'll be getting.
We got it.
Got it already. You noted that, yes, in your CEO report. Okay, now, we had this already this year, And I have somewhere down, budget variance distortions. For example, we have had fun all year with the loan that Jill and I closed on and signed that was on June 30th, knowing full well we were going to spend all that money the following year. And of course that, let's see here, bleachers, $204,000, computers, which I think we're going to spend in this May.
Yes, we'll be making the computer purchase, and we actually have now come up with a different computer purchasing strategy. And so I'm gonna be meeting with Brad Fenton either the end of this week or next week, and we may actually be able to reallocate what we had said that we were going to do for that full computer purchase to cover the foundation. So we may have only about $40,000 or so on the new purchase of equipment. We are looking at an insurance policy on the student computers that we have. And so it's like a 3-year cycle. Anything happens, the insurance is gonna come, fix, replace it, and it will be much more cost effective. And then that also will help reduce, unless there's any deductibles, fees that can go to the students for damage.
So that means that we won't be needing all of the loan proceeds then, perhaps?
Not towards the computer.
Or not towards that, could be towards something else then,
Right.
so,
So,
yeah.
we'll see.
Sounds good.
If not, we'll buy
Yes.
more computers, I guess.
Oh, all right, yes, let's see. Yeah, and the new bus, 78,900, and that, you add all of that up, and that's where the 416,433 comes from. Now, again, this is a situation that we as a board need to know enough accounting to understand how to interpret this. Again, we had capital expenditures that we thought last year were going to be, they were budgeted last year, going to be spent last year, but instead we had that split. And so knowing that, we don't need, I guess what I'm getting at is the initial reaction sometimes is panic. Because when you have that mistiming and you're on a cash basis, obviously, 1 year your income's going to be higher than you thought it would be, but then the next year when you spend it, your bottom line might look bad. But really, if you take that, if you could make a 14-month year, for example, it would all even out as a wash. Because as I've said before, I think I'm correct in stating that really the only money we get to keep, other than what donations we can get, is basically what we don't spend out of our state tuition. Because almost all of our grants, even the ones that, like the innovation grant, we would be smart to spend all of it. And so it's basically a wash if you have enough time frame. So, okay, enough. I think we've covered that enough this year, and hopefully maybe next year we won't have to talk about all of that. Let me move on quickly here. Let's see. Our year-to-debt debt service coverage ratio, we need 1.25 times per bank, and we were at 1.52. We're down to 1.38. Usually as the year progresses, that number tends to sort of drop a little bit. Remember, that's using accrual results, and that is cumulative because we don't try to forecast our accrual statements for a year, projected year end. Sub expense, yeah, I don't know. We may actually get in under budget. We're at 106,000 and we thought about 119. And then our net health insurance, we just talked a lot about that. The year-end projection would be 520,967. That's after payroll deduction. And that, the original budget amount, I think, was 716,000, something like that, because in May, we don't even know who's coming back for the next school year completely, let alone what coverage they'll take. So we have to make some conservative and proper assumptions. But right now, it looks like that about 72.7%, somewhere between 70 and 75% of what is budgeted is probably going to be our actual health insurance cost. So again, that's kind of like a built-in budget buffer there. So again, as long as we all know that, there's no problem. And then I have a summary of our monthly results and then a few comments down below. If you need more detail, again, I think I've got pretty much everything laid out there in the pre-meeting report. But briefly here, let's see, March, okay, let me see here. We have income, total expense, ending cash. Let's see. All right, the month was, let me think here. Okay, I think I finally accomplished, I've got myself confused on one of my own tables that was supposed to simplify. So pardon me here while I try to figure this one out anyhow.
Cash-wise, we ended more favorably than budget.
Yes, yes. The month of March, okay, let's see. Yes, okay, I think I've recalibrated here. Okay, the month of March was originally budgeted to reflect $163,000 loss. Instead, we did end up with a $65,000 cash loss, which is good. And our ending cash then, as of 3/31, was $680,108. And let's see, and then on an accrual basis then, actually the bottom line was $119,141, but you'll notice that the cash is always the same, and I explained that in my review or report. Your cash is going to be the same regardless of whether you're on a cash basis or you're looking at the accrual financials. Cash never changes. But the timing of cost and revenues is the big difference. And you'll note, for example, one of the biggest differences between accrual is that last column where it says depreciation expense $33,000 a month. You don't have any depreciation expense on our cash budget, for example. Now, April is projected and will be a very big month for us here. Cash net income, $540,932. That's a very good bottom line, and that is because we will be getting let's see here, what are we getting that month? Is it the facilities?
519,994, 950.
Yeah, it's yes, our charter school facilities grant, which we've already gotten. Okay, yeah. Okay, so that's the highlights there. We've talked about our budget distortions here. New cash flow, I noticed you added some new spreadsheet line items. They're both under facilities expense. You got a mobile phone allowance now, which was only about $400. And then I noted that we took professional services out of utilities and a separate line item there. So you might look for that. So utilities may have been a bit overstated because phones in there, and then we also had the outside services, many of which had nothing to do with the telephone or utilities, so probably a good switch there. Okay, changes in year-end projections, then I have a few comments here, and then below that, a few comments on the month of March. Let's see here. As I go through this, where I'm struggling, I'm thinking to myself, now next month I'm going to do this or that to make this report easier for all of us to read. So this is kind of a learning experience. Every time I do this, I'm thinking, how can I make this simpler so that we can go through it here? So, okay, changes in year-end projection. I'll just sort of read through this. Most of the 5.1% increase was the facilities grant, and total income for the year is now 62% over budget, which is very good. But also, our federal special ed was $83,460. We've increased that projection from our last board meeting. And if you combine titles, ESSER, and other grants, about $65,000 higher. So we look like we're doing very well with our year-end projections on revenue. I noticed that fundraising was lowered again this month, and we're about 68% below budget. E-rate, we had to revise that down about 73% below that 135,000. My only comment was, you know, we're still a young school with young alumni, and it takes many, many years to build that line up. So I'm not sure that's a big worry, but then total expense, let's see. We lowered that a little bit by about $60,000. So that's why the year-end projections look better, because we have the big grant coming in, and then expenses held, or maybe we're just a little bit lower. And of course, with or without the distortions, you get a different percentage. The only expense item I saw that was out of whack, and we've talked about this before, was outside cleaning. That was about 93% over our original budget. Now, I did find it curious, and I'm not looking to really delve into that, but one might say, well, gee, shouldn't our in-house maintenance and janitorial line go down a little bit too, if we're, you know, doing it from in-house to out-of-house? But they were about 10% higher as well, so I'm not sure we want to get into that, but
I'm more than happy to if you'd like to.
if anybody wants to, I don't care. As long as you're not using that cleaning crew I fired at the bank building a couple years ago.
I don't think so.
That was the Bohemian rock musicians that the lead singer had all kinds of bad teeth because he bit the bottle cap off the beer bottles. So
No, that is
I had to get rid of those guys.
description of our
okay. Well,
crew.
let me wrap this up here anyhow. Yeah, that is a true story, but I inherited those people. But anyhow, let's see. This is trivia, I know, and that's a question on instructional compensation, because that looks good, and it shows that for year end and also the month of March, we're very much under budget, about 5%. But I got to thinking about that. For year end, actually maybe 195,000 or so was savings from the actual switching to the actual health insurance coverage. So again, that's an example where some of these numbers, and that's why we spend time with it, you have to look a little closer at before you make an interpretation as to whether it's something we need to worry about or whatever. So the month of March then, we sort of covered that a little bit already, that total expense was very much below budget. Total income was off just a little bit, so when you have that combination, of course, you can reduce what was expected to be a losing month into a not so losing month. And we know that next month in April will be a very strong cash generating month for us. And I think that's just about it. And I think in closing, remember, as I've said often, if you go back over the last couple years, I think about 5 months, we usually have a big cash generating bottom line, because that's when you get the big grants in. And then the rest of the months, we usually lose money. Now, we don't like to lose money, but that's just part, I think, of our normal cycle. So the board, of course, what we're looking for is the red flags that jump out, and we're always looking, is this something that is a problem we need to jump on? But then we do need, and we're learning how to distinguish what is just maybe normal versus what is something that we really may have a problem with. So that's all I have.
Moving into next year and the following years, because we're not going to have that influx of ESSER money and those things, the expenses as well as hopefully the supply chain are going to be fairly predictable and stay on the same schedule as what we previously experienced. But we shall see, right? Yep. The world's a little different now.
Just slightly.
Just a little bit. We're okay.
Sorry, it's a little rough
Awesome.
tonight, but again, like I said, this was my second treasurer's report. So, and where I stumbled, I'll try to clean that up on my script sheet here so that we can all read those quick and easy.
All right, does anyone have anyone like to put a motion to approve the board treasurer report as presented tonight?
Make a motion that we approve the March 24 board treasurer report.
All right, we have a motion and second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next thing, put a motion to approve the financials as presented for March 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 2024 financials as presented.
All right,
Second.
and we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dave, as always, for your time and stuff. Thank you, Bookkeeping Plus, also for being here tonight, and as always, what you guys do too. Bethany and Jerry, appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys keep track of all this stuff. You can see how blurry I'm getting here from trying to go through all these little numbers. So you guys got a tough job, and Jill and everybody here, staff, has a tough job too.
Awesome. Thank you again. Good seeing you. Yes.
Oh, we'll be on here for the budget.
Oh, we on budget. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, see?
That's your job
If you
too.
don't like, want me to-
Sorry, it's been a
You
long
guys
day.
are on your own on that one.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can't leave
I'm not,
just yet.
I don't have anything to say
All
on
right.
That's all right.
Let's see here. Budget. I don't have it.
It's the first item on here.
I have.
Do you want me to
The
give an
field trip.
overview, Jill?
That's what-
She must not.
She did. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, it's on
That's
the post one.
Post. Okay.
Yeah, if you want to give a brief overview, I know, we've got some adjustments still to make, so.
All right, next we'll turn over to Bookkeeping Plus. Hello again, sorry about that, to discuss and talk about the budgetary. Sorry I didn't have it on my agenda here, so I apologize on that, but I'll turn over the floor to you all to go ahead and discuss that.
So as Jill said, we still have some work still to work on this. So basically, every single person's health insurance changed, so we had to make a lot of adjustments, and that's just come in. So we're working through, we've got those in there, but there still may be some other things we're having to massage. We're basing it on the ADM of 830, and we're showing about a 1.38% of basic increase of the basic grant and a 5% increase on the state sped. We're still receiving the Charter Innovation Grant, which is $1,400 per student, and then the Indiana Facility Charter, which we actually got this year. So there is one little thing, and I'm going to put this when we do the next revision. I normally don't show beginning cash because we always want it to be a flat budget at the end. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the beginning cash of the amount that we receive of the $519,000, because I haven't shown as income in this budget. But we're going to have all the expenses in this budget, but the income is not. So we have to look at it from that perspective, because otherwise it is going to look like you have a huge loss, which it will be, but it's because we received the money in advance. So I just want to let you know in the revision that will be an adjustment. The ESSER and the CARES grants are completed, so those are no longer in here. So that's showing our total revenue of about 11 million. And then we're showing, obviously, still the authorizer fees are 3%. Professional services, we had about a 5% increase. Utilities were about a 10%. Liability insurance was about a 10%. We're showing building improvements of placeholder for about 100,000. And then we've got a placeholder in there for the charter facility grant of 520. As for that grant, we just don't know exactly what that's all going to be spent on, but we have to put a placeholder to offset that income. And then we have the principal and interest payments, which includes the smart sensor lease of about 460,000. Our salaries totals are about $11 million with everything and expenses. And then our salary total increase is about 3.2% as it stands right now. We are showing a net loss of $292,000, but we're waiting on a couple other grants, a few other things. We're going through massaging the salaries to get that down, because there's potential adjustment on the ADM cost of about $74,000. There's some additional expenses, so I think we're getting close. When we go through it, when we send some notes to Jill, we've been going back and forth. And it's down to about 47, which, you know, when you get down to that low with this material of the budget is fairly insignificant. So we're working through that. And I think, I mean, we'll definitely get there, but we're waiting on a few other things to come through, but we wanted to get this presented tonight so you have the first reading of it.
Yeah, and I've got some what if scenarios for us to talk about in Finance Committee, looking at some of the possible staffing adjustments. You know, some of the things that came out of COVID, you know, we got new positions, and so with the way the budget is right now, we're able to keep them. We are also looking at maybe how to reallocate some of that now that we have a better understanding of some of our academic as well as our social emotional needs. And so being able to get back to having that full 3 counselor team and having some support staff. And as
We don't have 3 right now, do we?
We do not. So we have the 3 positions. We have 2 of the 3 now filled. So one came in and she is basically strictly an academic counselor for the secondary. And then in April, on April 1st, we hired Terry Turner, who is a mental health counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And she's spending a majority of her time with our elementary. She has been part of the Aspire-based, school-based mental health services that we've been providing for the last 4 years. So she's familiar with our kiddos, our staff. She does come over here, I believe, maybe 2 days a week or a day and a half a week at 29th Street. But pretty much on call whatever fire we've got for her. And then we are actually in interviews right now for that 3rd position that would be more of a secondary focus. And I think we probably have that nailed down. Had some good candidates.
Yeah, your high school counselor, I think, kids they have a lot of opportunities to get money. I've had counselors tell me there's all kinds of money available, but we can't get the kids to fill out and do what's needed. But a lot of times they need that counselor help.
Yes.
To know how to do that. So yeah, that's good to have an academic and help with that.
Yeah, and it's been one of those things where all of that stuff is extremely confusing. All of the scholarship processes, all of like the grants that are out there, or the different programming, and you know, our state will put out here's a career grant that you can go apply for, but if your family doesn't know how to navigate that system and you don't know the questions that you don't know to ask, right, you're not going to get anywhere. And so having someone that their primary focus is on that grad pathway, on the career exploration and how to fund college or fund trade school right now, because we've got kids that want to go in the trades. Well, next level jobs through Ivy Tech and Department of Workforce Development are like, here, we'll give you free certificates. But if they don't know how to get there, that's that. So, and then we know, and I've soapboxed on this several times about the mental health crisis that not only kids but also adults are facing. As a society, we just went through a big collective trauma with the pandemic, and then our kiddos, now that you talk more about, hey, that wasn't okay, right? Lots of big things are coming out, and then also our adults are learning, wow, my childhood was probably not where it maybe should have been, and now I understand why, I have trust issues or whatever. So having trained, certified, licensed professionals in those areas is really great, because we all do everything we can to support each other, but we're not experts.
Yeah.
So some interesting some what if scenarios for us to go through.
Well, I will comment that I think almost every first draft that we have, usually we have something in March, usually shows a pretty significant cash loss. But again, that's not cause to be too excited necessarily, but we usually get that down. If we're off, I'm trying to think of the bylaws and everything. The board is obligated, aren't we, to, we've always said that we wanted to approve a balanced budget. if we feel that the numbers may show a slight loss still, and that may likely be where we end up, barring some good fortune, how locked in are we on that? I'm not sure I understand what our legal or bylaw obligations are.
Yeah,
I know our standards have always been high.
we should have the balanced budget. That is what the charter and Ball State wants to see.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they
Okay.
prefer to see.
And I believe, Ryan, do we have visitors on right now? Okay. So Mariette Seiler from Ball State is supposed to be on today, just kind of listening anytime we
Okay.
do budget discussion, so I can follow up with her. But really, I don't see any reason we can't have this be balanced.
We always do every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, the first draft is where I like to throw everything in the kitchen sink at it to see like, hey, what can we actually do? Because, our
Plus,
process.
at that time, we probably haven't had any resignations or planned retirements, et cetera,
We
yeah.
have no clue
It's
about
too early on.
insurance, and it's a lot of the time where my administrative teams give me their wish list, right?
Mhm.
And some of those wish lists are huge.
Uh-huh.
I'm just say, guys, I'm sorry, the numbers just don't work, right? But it gives us time to figure out how to find a workaround. So I'm confident we can get balanced.
Mhm.
It might be like maybe 1,000 over,
Yeah.
but
Well, that's one
Zero
way,
is zero, balance is
I know
balance.
that Dr. Garwood and Keith were here back in February, late February, as a collective board, how to properly interpret our own numbers, so that we let no problems escape our attention and we don't overreact to something that's just normal accounting. I have tried to stress that we are, on a cash basis, certainly in a bit of a quandary, because, if you get $500,000, even if it's the last day of the year, you're sure not going to turn it down. But it has the potential, within just a 12-month constraint, to make it look like, my gosh, what are they doing on a spending spree? So I'm hoping that we've all been educated a little bit. And as long as we want to report everything in accordance with all GAAP and any principles. But sometimes we do need to make sure that whatever we present to everybody is understandable, so that they can easily see, okay, I get the picture, there's going to be a mismatch and there's really not much they can do about it. But if you extend that over a longer period, you say, hey, no problem. The grants are all basically a wash over time, food service too.
Yeah, and I think it's nice because we're taking that deferred revenue approach with the $520,000 that we received obviously in April. That we could go on a spending spree, but I actually don't think we'd get that much facility accomplished in the next 6 weeks. But being able to have those expenses accounted for in this budget.
Now, what you're calling deferred revenue, as it would be on an accrual, I think isn't that our placeholder on the cash budget? Yeah, same thing basically. Yeah.
Now, the one thing, because it is a state grant, it will be recognized as income in this current school year. So it's not, if it was a federal grant, I could put it as restricted. But since it is a state grant, it will be recognized as income in the 23-24 year, but the expenses will be in the 24-25 year. So that's what I'm saying, by putting it in the beginning cash so that you can see it flow through, but technically you are approving a negative budget with the caveat of knowing that you've received that money in this current school year. So it's being used in the proper year and matching it, but just know that that's technically what you're approving, which it's easily explainable, and I don't think Ball State will have a problem with it, or, as far as that or your bylaw, but I just want you to recognize that really is technically what you are approving.
I think that's what I was fishing for earlier, was I wasn't sure. In other words, are we saying there could be a possibility that we might have to approve a budget that's not perfectly break even because of that understanding? And
Yes.
You're correct.
Technically, the
Yes.
answer is yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
But that's something that I met with our auditors today on a couple of things today.
I wish I'd have brought that up when they were here, sitting right across from me almost, yeah.
Well, I actually met with Kyla and Ski today
Oh,
about,
good, okay.
looking at certified versus non-certified and
Yeah.
some of those coding things, because the state's changed a few things. And so this is something that they're all expecting from the charters right now, because you got your money in April and you're supposed to do, you know, for us, we're doing parking lot projects or some of the like playground remodel and roof and, you know, fun things like that. There's no way you can spend it in the fiscal year that you got that money.
Right.
So.
Okay. Well, I think I feel a little bit better about it. That first budget draft was a bit of a shocker there.
Yeah. It's always the first draft. Yeah,
That was a
from
little
that.
worse than we normally have, I will say
Hey,
that.
I've
but-
seen it over that.
Oh, you have? Oh, my God.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, this is better
Huh.
than we've had.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say
I'll go
that,
through
but
my files.
we'll get there, but this is actually better than it has been.
Oh, okay, okay. I know last year's was so smooth, we really didn't need any additional readings from the first draft, but then every year's different. And I think that, you know, rather than saying, well, we're not following our, you know, we like to do the March, April, May and all that, I think we should be applauded for the fact that if there are some difficulties to work out, we would like to get the budget as accurate as we can, rather than trying to rush something through. So we'll have a finished product by the May meeting as required, and it should be very accurate. Of course, all budgets, some stuff comes up, and you know how that goes. So you can't forecast everything.
Yep, we'll be working with Jill and we'll get that taken care of.
Very good.
I say, I did
Thank
get a
you.
secret message that says no
Are you
worries.
supposed to tell us then, or?
It didn't say not to.
Oh, okay.
No worries from their perspective. We've been at a $400,000 deficit at this point in budget discussions. So we're good. So
Who said that?
thanks, Mariette.
Oh, okay, yeah, well.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone, for your continued work with that, and I'm sure we'll see the final resolution here at some point, and we'll get it approved. Yes, go ahead.
Can I ask a question about it?
Sure.
So I know that we have some months that we have an extra pay period for the staff, but this is looking like every single month has the exact same amount budgeted.
So when we get when we finally get it completed, because to be honest, it's a lot to sit there and calculate it, so we wait till we get the final number of the wages, and then you'll see, like, when you do the cash flow, it actually is in there, and then we'll take care of it. But for this purposes, it's just flat divided by 12.
A lot of the line items sort of have to be that way.
Well, we'll do payroll when we do the cash flow next year. They're like your cash flows now, as we account for those 2 pay periods that have 3, because so it'll be apples to apples. But when we're doing this, because we're still making changes in payroll, you're just doing a lot of extra work to sit there to have to recalculate it all. So we wait till we're feeling good and it's ready to be done, and then we will fix this to be based on the 2 pay periods, or 2 months that have 3 payrolls.
Yeah, I think the classic example of that case study, the first year with our new bank, which main source now First Financial, we thought we were meeting our rather high 1.7 times debt service coverage ratio. And we had, I think, an unexpected 3 payroll month in June, I believe, that sent us well below that level. In fact, probably it was below 1.25 even. And that was, and I think at that point we said, is there any way we can smooth some of that out so that we don't, because we weren't trying to forecast that, and we had the bankers in immediately, and we explained what causes that sort of thing, and they understood pretty well. But I think that's why that has always been, I guess Jill and I are the only 2 that were here then, but yeah, that was kind of embarrassing when we had to call our new loan officer and say, guess what, we didn't make that ratio number here, but we
and then the other thing
called him right away.
We've done that average of over like the 4 years, because like this will be a good year. At the end of the year, because you have an extra 500,000, your ratio is probably going to be higher.
Yeah.
But next year, because we have spent the money, your ratio goes down, which
Right.
is why we do the 4-year average so that they can see that. Because that's the way, unfortunately, nonprofits work as far as grant funding. You just can't predict necessarily when it comes. You want to take the money when you
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really help when your bank's like, hey, last day of your fiscal year, take all the money.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Jill and I didn't ask
No
for that day.
complaints.
They just
Fine
said,
paper.
we're in town then.
But that's what has happened.
Oh, yeah. Now, is that a problem, that would exist, that mismatch, would that exist on an accrual statement as well?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that I wasn't
It
sure
definitely will,
about.
because the problem is you recognize the income in this year and you're taking your expenses next year. So yeah, it does the same thing.
Same thing, okay, that one I wasn't sure about. I know with accrual, you have all kinds of reserves for this and
Well,
that sometimes to
That's
get
why I said
around
it
it.
depends on the kind of grant. You can restrict
Yeah.
certain grants, and then that would offset it, and you could recognize the income and expense in the same year. But because this is a state grant, you have to recognize that that's GAAP, and so we have to follow GAAP.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. We appreciate y'all. Thank y'all again so much from that. And that's it for budget stuff. Do you have any other questions at all?
Not
We're
me.
good? Okay. Thank y'all again tonight for joining. We appreciate it. Have a safe
No
night.
executive session, huh?
All right.
We've got our field
Next.
trip.
Oh.
Next thing on the agenda here, looks like under new business, the only thing is a field trip for the high school, right, you said?
Yes.
In June of 2024 this year?
Yep.
All right, that's what we have.
All right,
Yeah.
so this is for the boys basketball team. They want to go to Indiana Wesleyan University,
Not
in
too far away.
state, not too far. They're gonna do a basketball camp for 3 days, and it looks like that's around June 21st, that weekend. I think it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They'll get to play in some tournaments. It's called the Super Hoops Camp. And so coach was really excited about that. We'll take a minibus, do all that travel, and then they'll stay on campus in the dorms. They'll get to eat in the cafeteria, have that college experience, and play ball. So I have no issues with it, and just need board approval since it is going to be an overnight trip.
All right.
Who qualifies within the basketball team? Just last year's, is it, I'm assuming that it's last year's team.
So it's whoever is participating in summer basketball.
Okay.
So we already do have a schedule that's kind of laid out, and so that could be incoming freshmen, that could be current players, or returning high school students that didn't play last season that are interested.
Okay.
And for this specific tournament, they'll do a first come, first serve, whoever signs up, so that they don't exceed their 15-passenger bus part. But they do have quite a few games set up for the month of June, and they will be traveling quite a bit. They had a great time last year doing it, so.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the field trip for the boys high school basketball program / team in June of 2024 this year?
I make a motion that we approve this field trip for the boys basketball team to attend IWU for their basketball camp.
Thank you. We got a motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we got a motion second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. They are approved. Tell them we all, on behalf of us, hope they enjoy their time.
All right, they will be excited.
All right. Nothing else for new business nor old business. Any further discussion tonight? Anything else? All right, so I want to thank everyone for joining this evening here on May 7th, our board meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion second.
We might catch one of the FBI's when we get home.
Oh, yeah.
If we adjourn now, so.
There you go. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Have